कौन जांच कर रहा है? पूरा करके उसके बाद 2 साइन से हो गई है। अच्छा, दो की बात है। तो एक काम कर सुरेश, ये तो जो पैसे
Can you hear me now? I think I'll go back and redo it. I cannot hear. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll get back. Okay, let's go back. Okay, let's go back here. This is where we were. एताः परं स्त्रीत्वमपास्तपेशलं निरस्तशौचं बत साधु कुर्वति यासां गृहात् पुष्करलोचन पतेर् न जात्वपैत्याः हृतिभिर्हृदि स्पृशम्. All of these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of God, had never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. They made these ladies, the ladies that we are talking about are Krishna's wives. They had made their entire lives very beautiful. What kind of womanly life are we talking about? We are talking about lives without individuality, without independence, and without purity. Still, the Supreme Lord, He never left them. He satisfied them with various gifts. For instance, He brought the Parijata and other very items very dear to them. Hrudi Spurshan, Anandayan. Just a minute. And then Prabhupada, he explains that of course, there's a gentle principle that when one fully surrenders unto the Lord and engages in devotional service, one goes beyond the three modes of material nature. We know that from the Bhagavad Gita also. Sagunan samatitya pramabhuyaya kalpate. Women, merchants, and laborers are not very intelligent. Thus, it is very difficult for them to understand the science of God or to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. They are more materialistic, and less than them are the Kiratas, Hunas, Andhras, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Angiras, Kankas, Yavanas, Khasas, etc. But all of them can be delivered if they are properly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. This is directly a statement from Bhagavatam, second canto. If they are properly engaged. Yad vyapashaya ashraya shuddhyanti tasmai prabhu Vishnave namah. We'll see this in the second canto. By engagement in the service of the Lord, the designative disqualifications are removed, and as pure souls, they become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. So that's a general principle. Coming to this specific category of ladies who are married to the Lord, they had been kidnapped by Bhaumasura. So that itself is impurity. When the Supreme Lord had taken them, He accepted them as His wives, and thus glorified their lives. And on top of it, He was a very devoted husband. He expanded himself into 16,108 plenary portions, and each of them was there for each of his wives. He bought the Parijata plant from heaven and implanted it at the palace of Satyabhama, one of the principal queens. If therefore anyone desires the Lord to become one's husband, the Lord fulfills such desires in full. Evam vitha gadantinam sa girah purayoshitam nirikshanena abhinandan sasmitena yayo hari. While the ladies of the capital Hastinapur were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings, and casting the grace of His glance over them, He departed from the city. Ajata Shatru Prataram Gopithaya Madhushaha Paribhya Shankita Sneha Prayunkta Chaturangini Maharaj Yudhishthir, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense: horse, elephant, chariot, and army, to accompany Lord Krishna, the enemy of the Asuras, demons. The Maharaj did this because of the enemy and also out of affection for the Lord. So even though he was Madhudvisha, he was the enemy of Madhu. That means if he is capable of defeating the demon Madhu, certainly it means that he is fully capable of protecting himself. Still, Yudhishthir, out of affection, wanted to protect this person. He was frightened that enemies might attack, and therefore he engaged his army of 4 divisions. Hastyashwar Ratsa Padatam Senangam Syachaturbidham. An army consists of 4 divisions: elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry. Natural defensive measures are horses and elephants combined with chariots and men. Horses and elephants are trained to move to any part of the hills or forests and plains. The charioteers could fight with many horses and elephants by the strength of powerful arrows, even up to the standard of the Brahmastra, similar to modern atomic weapons. Now, one point to notice, you see in Vedic civilization, even the defensive measures are natural. It is unlike the militaries of today, which can easily destroy the environment and so on, which can give trouble to not just the enemy, the target. It can give trouble to others also. Now, Yudhishthir, he knew that Lord Krishna does not have, Krishna does not count anyone as his enemy. But nevertheless, there were many others who by nature are envious of Krishna. So he arranged for the entire army of 4 divisions in order to protect Krishna. This is simply out of affection. And Maharaj Yudhishthira could do so because he was the elder cousin of Krishna. The Lord plays the part of a subordinate in his transcendental sporting, and thus sometimes he puts himself in the care of Yashoda Mata for his protection in his so-called helplessness of childhood. That is the transcendental Leela or pastime of the Lord. Atha Duragatar Shauri Gauravan Virahatura Sannivatya Dridham Snigdhan Prayatswa Nagarim Priyai. Out of profound affection for Lord Krishna, the Pandavas, who were of the Kuru dynasty, accompanied him a considerable distance to see him off. They were overwhelmed with the thought of future separation. The Lord, however, persuaded them to return home, and he proceeded towards Dwaraka with his dear companions. So here, one point to note, the Pandavas are described as Kauravas, literally. That is from the technical point of view, because Pandu was born in the dynasty of Kuru, therefore the sons of Pandu are automatically descendants of Kuru. The Lord proceeded towards Dwaraka with his dear companions, such as Uddhava, Kurujangala Panchalan, Shurasenan Sayamunan, Brahmavartam Kurukshetram Matsyansara Swatanatha, Marudhanvam Atikramya Sauvira Yohvaran, Anartan Bhargavopagat Shrantavaho Manag Vibhuhu. O Shaunaka, the Lord then proceeded towards Kurujangala, Panchala, Shurasena, the land on the bank of the river Yamuna, Brahmavarta, Kurukshetra, Matsya, Saraswata, the province of the desert and the land of scanty water. After crossing these provinces, he gradually reached the Sauvira and Abhira provinces. And then west of these reached Dwaraka at last. So by the time he reached Dwaraka, his horses were fatigued. They were overtaken by fatigue. Kurukshetram Kuru Deshantara Gatameva. Kramotrana Vivakshita. Here, this is not the particular order through which the Lord traveled, but it's just indicative. This, okay, yeah, fine. So his horses were slightly fatigued because of the long journey. Okay, here we do not gain any profit simply by researching the analogous provinces of those days up to now, but it appears that the desert of Rajasthan and the provinces of scanty water like Madhya Pradesh were present even 5,000 years ago. The theory of soil experts that the desert developed in recent years is not supported by the statements of Bhagavatam. We may leave the matter for expert geologists to research, because the changing universe has different phases of geological development. Tatra tatra ha tatratyair harih pradyuttatarhanaha harih pratyudyatarhanaha sayam bheje disham paschat gavishtho gan gatastada. On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. In the evening, in all places, the Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. This was regularly observed after sunset. So, in all of these places, he accepted various gifts. So, when the sun, when it's set, then the Lord would suspend in order to engage in his Sandhya Vandana, evening rites. So it is said here that the Lord observed the religious principles regularly while he was on the journey. There are certain philosophical speculations that even the Lord is under the obligations of fruitive action. But actually, this is not the case. He does not depend on the action of any good or bad work. Since the Lord is absolute, everything done by him is good for everyone. But when he descends to the earth, he acts for the protection of the devotees and for the annihilation of the impious non-devotees. Although he has no obligatory duty, still he does everything so that others may follow. That is the way of actual teaching. One must act properly himself and teach the same to others. Otherwise, no one will accept one's blind teaching. He is himself the awarder of fruitive results. He is self-sufficient, and yet he acts according to the rulings of the revealed scripture in order to teach us the process. If he does not do so, the common man may go wrong. But in the advanced stage, when one can understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, one does not try to imitate him. This is not possible, meaning it is not possible to imitate him and attain the same result that he attains. The Lord in human society does what is the duty of everyone, but sometimes he does something extraordinary and not to be imitated by the living being. His acts of evening prayer, as stated herein, must be followed by the living being, but it is not possible to follow his mountain lifting or dancing with the gopis. Therefore, in all actions, the experienced guide, the spiritual master, who is the manifested mercy of the Lord, should always be consulted, and the path of progress will be assured. Then, chapter 11, Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwaraka. Anarthaistuyamanasya purim nirvishya bandhubhihi ekadashe ratih samyag yadavendrasya varanyate. In the 11th chapter, there is a description of the complete affection that the residents of Anartha, the residents of Dwaraka, had for the Lord of the Yadus. They glorified him while he entered the city along with his dear relatives. Utsavair Uchalat Pauram. The city was upbeat with festivities. Udanchad Dvajatoranam, flags and Torana refers to certain decorations that are placed above the gateways. Ullasad Ratnadipali. There were lamps. There were lamps with jewels that were shining all over. Swapuram Prabhuravisha. All of this was there in his city when the Lord entered into it. Sutovacha. Anarthan Supavrajya, Stvrudhan Janapadan Swakan, Dadhvau Daravaram Tesha, Vishadam Shamayan Niva. Suta Goswami said, upon reaching the border of his most prosperous metropolis, known as the country of the Anarthas, Dwaraka, the Lord sounded his auspicious conch shell, heralding his arrival and apparently pacifying the dejection of the inhabitants. So his conch shell was the Panchajani, and his metropolis was prosperous. The Lord had gone out of Dwaraka for a long period. The beloved Lord was away from his own prosperous metropolis of Dwaraka for a considerably long period because of the battle of Kurukshetra, and thus all the inhabitants were overcome with melancholia due to the separation. When the Lord descends to the earth, his eternal associates also come with him, just as the entourage of a king accompanies him. Such associates of the Lord are eternally liberated souls, and they cannot bear the separation of the Lord even for a moment because of intense affection for the Lord. Thus the inhabitants of the city of Dwaraka were in a mood of dejection and expected the arrival of the Lord at any moment. So the heralding sound of the auspicious conch shell was very encouraging, and apparently the sound pacified their dejection. Apparent, because their aspiration to see the Lord had only increased. These are the signs of spontaneous love of God. स उच्चखा शे धवलो दरो दरो उपयुरुक्रमस्या धरशोणशोणिमा दादन् no दाध्मायमान करकंज संपुटे यथाब्ज खंडे कलहंस उत्स्वनः. The white and fat-bowled conch shell, being gripped by the hand of Lord Krishna and sounded by him, appeared to be reddened by the touch of his transcendental lips. It seemed that a white swan was playing in the stems of red lotus flowers. So when that conch shell was blown by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it shone very beautifully. Okay. The rest are already incorporated by Prabhupada in the translation. The redness of the white conch shell due to the lip touch of the Lord is a symbol of spiritual significance. The Lord is all spirit, and matter is ignorance of the spiritual existence. By ardent love and devotion service to the Lord, or in other words, by spiritual contact with the Lord, everything becomes spiritually reddened, like the conch shell in the grip of the Lord. And the Paramahamsa, or the supremely intelligent person, plays the part of the ducking swan in the water of spiritual bliss, eternally decorated by the lotus flower of the Lord's feet. Tam upashrutya ninnadam jagat bhayabhayavaham pratyudyayuh prajah sarva bhartridarshana lalasa. The citizens of Dwaraka, having heard that sound which threatens fear personified in the material world, began to run towards him fast, just to have a long desired audience with the Lord, who is the protector of all devotees. So these Dwarka residents, they were liberated souls. All of them were anxious to have an audience with the Lord, although because of spiritual contact, they were never separated from the Lord. Just as the gopis at Vrindavan used to think of Krishna while he was away from the village for cowherding engagements, the citizens of Dwaraka were all immersed in thought of the Lord while he was away from Dwaraka to attend the battle of Kurukshetra. Some distinguished fiction writer in Bengal concluded that the Krishna of Vrindavan, that of Mathura, and that of Dwaraka were different personalities. Historically, there is no truth in this conclusion. The Krishna of Kurukshetra and the Krishna of Dwaraka are one and the same personality. So they were in a state of melancholy. But when they saw the Lord, then it appeared to them to be like sunrise. So all the citizens of Dwaraka awoke from a state of slumber because of the sunrise of Krishna. They all hastened towards him just to have an audience. the devotees of the Lord know no one else as protector. So they heard this sound from the Lord which woke them up. So Prabhupada takes the opportunity to point out that this sound of the Lord is identical with the Lord because he is non-dual. The material existence of our present status is full of fear, but he can bring about fear to fear itself. So out of ahara nidra bhaya maithuna, that bhaya, fear problem is most prominent. But if we take shelter of the sound of the Lord, then we can attain a status of complete fearlessness. Specifically, the sound that is given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tatropanita valayo raverdipam ivadrita atmaramam purnakamam nijallabhena nityada prityutpulla mukha prochur harshak gadgada yagira pitaram sarva suhridam avitaram ivarbhakah. The citizens arrived before the Lord with their respective presentations, offering them to the fully satisfied and self-sufficient one, who by his own potency incessantly supplies others. These presentations were like the offering of a lamp to the sun. Yet the citizens began to speak in ecstatic language to receive the Lord, just as wards welcome their guardian and father. So they had offered various gifts to the Supreme Lord. Even though the Supreme Lord is independent, he does not need any of this. Still, with respect, they gave these to him. And the example that's given here is their presentations were like the offering of a lamp to the sun. He is the one who is beneficial to everyone. He is everyone's well-wisher. They offered all of this to him because he is their well-wisher, not out of any it's not that the Lord needed anything, because he is fully self-satisfied. Tatrapi hetu. Why is he fully self-satisfied? Paramananda nija swarupa labhena eva purnakama. Because he is fully satisfied with his spiritual bliss. Prabhupada explains that. The Supreme Lord Krishna is described herein as Atmarama. He is self-sufficient, and there is no need for him to seek happiness from anything beyond himself. He is self-sufficient because his very transcendental existence is total bliss. He is eternally existent. He is all cognizant and all blissful. Therefore, any presentation, however valuable it may be, is not needed by him. But still, because he is a well-wisher for one and all, he accepts from everyone everything that is offered to him in pure devotional service. It is not that he is in want of such things, because the things are themselves generated from his energy. The comparison is made here that making offerings to the Lord is something like offering a lamp in the worship of the sun god. Anything fiery and illuminating is but an emanation of the energy of the sun. And yet to worship the sun god, it is necessary to offer him a lamp. In the worship of the sun, there is some sort of demand made by the worshipper, but in the case of devotion service to the Lord, there is no question of demand from either side. It is all a sign of pure love and affection between the Lord and the devotee. So then, what does this signify? This signifies that they were conscious of their constitutional relationship with the Supreme Lord. They were clear about that. The Lord is just like the desired tree, and from him everyone can have everything by the causeless mercy of the Lord. As the Supreme Father, the Lord, however, does not supply to a pure devotee what is considered to be a barrier to the discharge of devotional service. Those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord can rise to the position of unalloyed devotional service by his transcendental attraction. So what did they say? Kimuchiriti daha natasmet. That is noted from text 6. Natasmate natha sadang hripankajam Can you hear me now? Hare Krishna. Can anyone hear me? Can anyone? Okay, all right. Okay, fine. Something went wrong. Okay, so where are we? Just give me a minute. Let me open Sridhar Swami.
Mukund.
Okay. Something's wrong. Why is this?
नकुल बेटा मम्मी वो मुकुंद गाड़ी में गया था वो क्या कहते हैं क्रेटा बोले मर्सिडीज में गए मुकुंद तो वो गाड़ी में टिफिन गाड़ी में से ऐसा नहीं रखा मेरा जाए टिफिन बोल दो मम्मी को
What is this? This is wrong. Okay. So let's get back to this. You're the ultimate rest for those who are really aspiring to achieve the highest benefit of life. You're the supreme transcendental Lord, and inevitable time cannot exert its influence upon you. So we offer our obeisances unto you. You're worshipped by Brahma and Brahma's sons, the Sarangas and so on. You are the shelter for all who desire the supreme benefit. How come you are the Lord of everyone else, including Lord Brahma? That's because even time is not a controlling agent over the Lord. Therefore, He is a supreme being. So they recognize this. The influence of time and space is exerted upon the dependent living entities, who are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The living entities are predominated Brahma, whereas the Supreme Lord is the predominating Absolute. As soon as we forget this clear fact, we are at once in an illusion, and thus we are put into threefold miseries, as one is put into dense darkness. The clear consciousness of the cognizant living being. Cognizant means aware. Of the living being who is aware of this fact is God consciousness, in which one bows down unto Him in all circumstances. You can see here, Natasma te natha sadam pankajam. We always bow down, O Lord, unto your lotus feet. Always. Bhavayanastvam bhava vishwa bhavana tvameva mata tha suhrit patih pita. Tvam sadgururna paramam cha daivatam yasyana vritya kriti no babhuvima. O Creator of the universe, you are our mother, well-wisher, Lord, Father, spiritual master, and worshipable deity. By following in your footsteps, we have become successful in every respect. We pray, therefore, that you continue to bless us with your mercy. please help us go up. Please help us to progress in our welfare, in doing good to ourselves. So we have become successful because of you. So this is actually Dasya Rasa. But you can see very clearly that this is also a very intimate relationship. One should not materialistically think that the higher rasas are spiritual and the lower rasas are more material. They're not more material. They're all spiritual. And they're all intimate, but there are different degrees of that intimacy. The all-good personality of Godhead, being the creator of the universe, also plans for the good of all good living beings. The good living beings are advised by the Lord to follow his good advice, and by doing so, they become successful in all spheres of life. There is no need to worship any deity but the Lord. The Lord is all-powerful. And if he is satisfied by our obedience unto his lotus feet, he is competent to bestow upon us all kinds of blessings for the successful execution of both our material and spiritual lives. So Krishna is very complete, and his program of welfare for us, that is also complete. He thinks about our material benefit, he thinks about our spiritual benefit. In every way he helps. For attaining spiritual existence, the human form is a chance for all to understand our eternal relation with God. Our relation with him is eternal. It can neither be broken nor vanquished. It may be forgotten for the time being, but it can be revived also by the grace of the Lord, if we follow his injunctions, which are revealed in the revealed scriptures of all times and all places. So Krishna is given his plans primarily for all the good living beings. He wants the bad living beings to become good. Good living beings means those who are interested in accepting his advice. Aho sanatha bhavata smayadvayam traivishtapanapi duradarshanam premasmita snigdhan nirikshananam pashyema rupam tava sarva saubhagam. Oh, it is our good luck that we have come again today under your protection by your presence, for your lordship rarely visits even the denizens of heaven. Now it is possible for us to look into your smiling face, which is full of affectionate glances. We can now see your transcendental form, full of all auspiciousness. So here they are pointing out how they have become successful. What is the success that they are talking about? That is this. Now they have become sanatha. Sanatha means they are protected by the Lord. They are protected by a master. That master is the Lord himself. To such an extent that they can see him. So what is big about it? Oh, he can be seen only by the residents of the heavenly planets, that too only from a distance. Even then, only rarely. But we can see you, and we can see you with your affectionate smile and your glance. So we see you in this way. You're fully auspicious and you allow us to see you. This is our success. That is the implication here. When Brahmaji and the other demigods want to consult Lord Vishnu, the plenary portion of Lord Krishna, they have to wait on the shore of the ocean of milk where Lord Vishnu is lying on White Island or Shvetadvip. This ocean of milk and the Shvetadvip planet are the replica of Vaikuntha Loka within the universe. Neither Brahmaji nor the demigods like Indra can enter into this island of Shvetadvip, but they can stand on the shore of the ocean of milk and transmit their message to Lord Vishnu, known as Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Therefore, the Lord is rarely seen by them, but the inhabitants of Dwaraka, because of their being pure devotees without any tinge of the material contamination of fruitive activities and empiric philosophical speculation, can see him face to face by the grace of the Lord. So now this is because they have attained spiritual purity, therefore they are able to perceive this reality. This is objective reality. Yarhyam bujaksha pasasara bho bhavan kurun madhun vata suhrid drikshaya Tatrabdakoti pratimakshano bhave ravim vinakshno rivanastavachuta. O lotus-eyed Lord, whenever you go away to Mathura Vrindavan or Hastinapur to meet your friends and relatives, every moment of your absence seems like millions of years. O infallible one, at that time our eyes become useless as if bereft of sun. Like children, they speak very piteously. When you don't bother about us and you go to Hastinapura or to Mathura, then at that time, um, every moment of your absence seems like millions of years. So then Prabhupada immediately takes the opportunity to explain that the eyes are useful only in the presence of sunshine. The senses are not absolutely useful in conveying valid information to us. In the absence of sunshine, the eyes are useless. Lord Sri Krishna, being the primeval Lord, the supreme truth, is compared to the sun. Without him, all our knowledge is either false or partial. The opposite of the sun is the darkness, and similarly, the opposite of Krishna is Maya or illusion. The devotees of the Lord can see everything in true perspective due to the light disseminated by Lord Krishna. By the grace of the Lord, the pure devotee cannot be in the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, it is necessary that we must always be in the sight of Lord Krishna so that we can see both ourselves and the Lord with his different energies. As we cannot see anything in the absence of the sun, so also we cannot see anything including our own self without the factual presence of the Lord. Without him, all our knowledge is covered by illusion. Okay. Katham vayam nath chiroshite tvai prasanna drishtyakhilatapasoshannam जीवेमते सुन्दरहासशोभितम् अपश्यमानावदनं मनोहरम् इति चोदीरिता वाचः प्रजानां भक्तवत्सलः शृण्वानोऽनुग्रहं दृष्ट्या वितन्वन् प्राविशत्पुरम्. O Master, if you live abroad all the time, then we cannot look at your attractive face, whose smiles vanquish all our sufferings. How can we exist without your presence? Upon hearing their speeches, the Lord, who is very kind to the citizens and the devotees, entered the city of Dwaraka and acknowledged all their greetings by casting his transcendental glance over them. So he acknowledged and congratulated them just by glancing at them when they had uttered such words. This is another words like this. Lord Krishna's attraction is so powerful that once being attracted by him, one cannot tolerate separation from him. Why is this so? Because we are all eternally related with him as the sun rays are eternally related with the sun disk. So therefore, when the living entities are in their original position, they always want to be with the Lord. They don't want to be separated from the Lord. The living entities who are molecular parts of the whole spirit are separated from the Lord by the artificial covering of Maya, illusory energy. This illusory energy or the curtain of Maya has to be removed. And when it is so done, the living entity can see the Lord face to face and all his miseries are at once removed. Every one of us wants to remove the miseries of life, but we do not know how to do it. The solution is given here and it rests on us to assimilate it or not. It's an open secret. But if we surrender unto the Supreme Lord, he removes the miseries of our material existence. Madhu bhoja dasharharha kukurandhaka vishnibhi atmatulya balayar guptam nagair bhogavati miva. As Bhogavati, the capital of Nagaloka, is protected by the Nagas, so was Dwaraka protected by the descendants of Vrishni. Bhoj, Madhu, Dasharha, Arha, Kukura, Andhaka, etc., who were as strong as Lord Krishna. Tam Dwarakam Stauti Panchabhi. He entered into Dwaraka. Now that Dwaraka is being glorified in 5 verses beginning with text 11. The Nagaloka planet is situated below the Earth planet, and it is understood that the sun rays are hampered there. The darkness of the planet is, however, removed by the flashes of the jewels set on the heads of the Nagas, celestial serpents. And it is said that there are beautiful gardens, rivulets, etc., for the enjoyment of the Nagas. It is understood here also that the place is well protected by the inhabitants. So also the city of Dwaraka was well protected by the descendants of Vrishni, who were as powerful as the Lord insofar as he manifested his strength upon this earth. So they were not literally as powerful as the Lord, but they are as powerful as much strength that the Lord had exhibited. To that degree, he had made them also powerful. Sarvartu sarva vibhava punya vrikshalatashramai udyano ramair vrita padmakara shriyam. The city of Dwarakapuri was filled with the opulences of all seasons. There were hermitages, orchards, flower gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water breeding lotus flowers all over. In all seasons, there were all kinds of prosperous arrangements, opulences, such as flowers and so on. There were pious trees. There were um, creeper groves were there. There were gardens and so on. There were lotus ponds, which were very beautiful. Udyanam phalapradhanam, upavanam pushpapradhanam. Very interesting. There were udyanas, which were primarily filled with fruits, and there were upavanas, which were primarily filled with flowers. And then there were aramas, which refer to pleasure gardens, which is a good, nice description. So this is what is meant by opulence. A very important point that Prabhupada explains. Perfection of human civilization is made possible by utilizing the gifts of nature in their own way. As we find here in the description of its opulence, Dwaraka was surrounded by flower gardens and fruit orchards along with reservoirs of water and growing lotuses. There is no mention of mills and factories supported by slaughterhouses, which are the necessary paraphernalia of the modern metropolis. It's greatly surprising to notice the amount of animal slaughter that is being done and the ease with which they deal with animal slaughter for the sake of eating their flesh. They think it's the most normal thing to do in life, to kill animals and eat them. The propensity to utilize nature's own gifts is still there even in the heart of modern civilized man. The leaders of modern civilization select their own residential quarters in a place where there are such naturally beautiful gardens and reservoirs of water. But they leave the common man to reside in congested areas without parks and gardens. Herein, of course, we find a different description of the city of Dwaraka. It is understood that the whole dham or residential quarter was surrounded by such gardens and parks with reservoirs of water where lotuses grew. It is understood that all the people depended on nature's gifts of fruits and flowers without industrial enterprises, promoting filthy huts and slums for residential quarters. Advancement of civilization is estimated not on the growth of mills and factories to deteriorate the finer instincts of the human being, but on developing the potent spiritual instincts of human beings and giving them a chance to go back to God. Development of factories and mills is called ugra karma or pungent activities, and such activities deteriorate the finer sentiments of the human being and society to form a dungeon of demons. Ugra karma. Prabhupada often uses this expression. It actually appears in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 16, where there's a description of the activities of the demons, the demoniac souls. They engage in ugra karma, terrible activities which simply give trouble to others, pungent activities. So that is what we find in today's world. We find herein the mention of pious trees which produce seasonal flowers and fruits. The impious trees are useless jungles only, and they can only be used to supply fuels. In the modern civilization, such impious trees are planted on the sides of roads. Human energy should be properly utilized in developing the finer senses for spiritual understanding, in which lies the solution of life. Fruits, flowers, beautiful gardens, parks, and reservoirs of water with ducks and swans playing in the midst of lotus flowers and cows giving sufficient milk and butter are essential for developing the finer tissues of the human body. As against this, the dungeons of mines, factories, and workshops develop demoniac propensities in the working class. Demoniac propensities means we want to selfishly exploit others. The opposite of this is the pious propensity, which is to do good to others, to make others happy. So there are certain activities if we engage in, our selfishness will become more and more natural to us. And this is what is called the demoniac way of life. It will increase our lust, greed, anger, and so on. And the whole modern civilization is actually demoniac at its root. On the other hand, we have the Vedic civilization, which is divine, which makes people selfless. And the more selfless ones are put at the top of the org chart. The vested interests flourish at the cost of the working class, and consequently, there are severe clashes between them in so many ways. The description of Dwaraka Dham is the ideal of human civilization. Gopura Dwaramargeshu Krita Kautuka Toranam Chitra Dhwaja Pataka Grairantah Pratihata Tatam. The city gateway, the household doors, and festooned arches, along with the roads, were all nicely decorated with festive signs like plantain trees and mango leaves, all to welcome the Lord. Flags, garlands, and painted signs and slogans all combined to shade the sunshine. The flags had symbols of Garuda and so on. There were some other flags which had the signs of certain yantras which bring about conquest. Signs of decoration and spiritual festivals were also collected from the gifts of nature, such as the plantain trees, the mango trees, fruits, and flowers. Notice that it is completely nature compliant. It is not like in today's world. People have no idea what to do with garbage. They're making a big mess because the entire research, the program of research and development in the name of scientific progress, that itself is unauthorized. When the government creates a prison, it expects that the prisoners first of all understand why they are there, and they understand that they are meant to correct themselves, and they should find a way to come to the free world. They are not supposed to try to make the prison itself more and more comfortable. Unauthorized. Mango trees, coconut palms, and plantain trees are still accepted as auspicious signs. The flags mentioned above were all painted with the picture of either Garuda or Hanuman, the two great servitors of the Lord. For devotees, such paintings and decorations are still adored, and the servitor of the master is paid more respects for the satisfaction of the Lord. We still find this in several traditional Vaishnava festivities. We find this. They will paint Garuda or Hanuman and so on. Very auspicious. Samarjita Mahamarga Rathyapanakachatvaram Siktam Gandhajalairutam Phalap Pushpakshitankurai. The highways, subways, lanes, markets, and public meeting places were all thoroughly cleansed and then moistened with scented water. And to welcome the Lord, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds were strewn everywhere. So they were strewn in the Mahamarga, the highways, and other places. That was the Grand Road. Then you had various other lanes and so on. There were markets. There were meeting places that looked like courtyards and so on. So fruits, flowers, unbroken seeds, they were all strewn everywhere. Scented waters prepared by distilling flowers like rose and kyara were requisitioned to wet the roads, streets, and lanes of Dwarakadham. Such places, along with the marketplace and public meeting places, were thoroughly cleansed. So they're not filthy like in today's many places in India. So dirty, not like this. From the above description, it appears that the city of Dwarakadham was considerably big, containing many highways, streets, and public meeting places with parks, gardens, and reservoirs of water, all very nicely decorated with flowers and fruits. And to welcome the Lord, such flowers and fruits with unbroken seeds of grain were also strewn over the public places. Unbroken seeds of grain or fruits in the seedling stage were considered auspicious, and they are still so used by the Hindus in general on festival days. In the Madhva line, if you go, you receive blessings from the Lord. The pujari will throw unbroken seeds on the head, or he'll give it in the hand. You're supposed to put it on your head. This is how you accept the blessings from the Lord. Akshata, they're called, unbroken seeds. Dwari dwari grihanam cha dadhyakshata palakshubhihi alankritam purnakumbhair balibher dhupadipakai. In each and every door of the residential houses, auspicious things like curd, unbroken fruits, sugarcane, and full water pots with articles for worship, incense, and candles were all displayed. The process of reception according to Vedic rites is not at all dry. The reception was made not simply by decorating the roads and streets as above mentioned, but by worshipping the Lord with requisite ingredients like incense, lamps, flowers, sweets, fruits, and other palatable eatables according to one's capacity. All were offered to the Lord, and the remnants of the foodstuff were distributed amongst the gathering citizens. So this is there even now. When we observe Vaishnava festivities, you will notice this practice. We are also following this within ISKCON. When the deity is taken around, then we are allowed to offer to the deities, and then it's distributed to others. So it is not like a dry reception of these modern days. Each and every house was ready to receive the Lord in a similar way, and thus each and every house on the roads and streets distributed such remnants of food to the citizens, and therefore the festival was successful. Without distribution of food, no function is complete, and that is the way of Vedic culture. Nishamya preshthamayantam vasudevo mahamana akruraschograsenascha ramashadbhuta vikrama pradyumnascharudeshnascha sambojambavati sutah praharsha ve got shasita shayanasana bhojana. On hearing that the most dear Krishna was approaching Dwarakadham, magnanimous Vasudeva, Akrura, Ugrasena, Balaram, the son of the superhumanly powerful, Pradyumna, Charudeshna, and Samba, the son of Jambavati, all extremely happy, abandoned resting, sitting, and dining. So as soon as they heard that their dearmost one was coming, then Vasudeva and the others, they all ran towards him. Prabhupada then explains about a number of these important persons. Vasudeva, son of King Shurasena, husband of Devaki, and father of Lord Shri Krishna. He is a brother of Kunti and father of Subhadra. Subhadra was married with her cousin Arjuna, and this system is still prevalent in some parts of India. Vasudeva was appointed minister of Ugrasena, and later on he married 8 daughters of Ugrasena's brother Devaka. Devaki is only one of them. Kamsa was his brother-in-law, and Vasudeva accepted voluntary imprisonment by Kamsa on mutual agreement to deliver the 8th son of Devaki. This was foiled by the will of Krishna, As maternal uncle of the Pandavas, he took active parts in the purificatory process of the Pandavas. He sent for the priest Kashyapa at Shatashringa Parvata, and he executed the functions. When Krishna appeared within the bars of Kamsa's prison house, he was transferred by Vasudeva to the house of Nanda Maharaj, the foster father of Krishna at Gokula. Krishna disappeared along with Baladev prior to the disappearance of Vasudeva, and Arjuna, Vasudev's nephew, undertook the charge of the funeral ceremony after Vasudev's disappearance. Akrura. Akrura attained success in devotion service to the Lord by one single process of offering prayers. He was a husband of Sutani, daughter of Ahuka. Ahuka is Ugrasena. He supported Arjuna when Arjuna took Subhadra forcibly away by the will of Krishna. Both Krishna and Akrura went to see Arjuna after his successful kidnapping of Subhadra. Both of them presented dowries to Arjuna after this incident. Akrura was present also when Abhimanyu, the son of Subhadra, was married with Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit. Ahuka, the father-in-law of Akrura, was not on good terms with Akrura, but both of them were devotees of the Lord. So then Ugrasena, who is Ahuka, one of the powerful kings of the Vrishni dynasty and cousin of Maharaj Kunti Bhoja. His son was the powerful Kamsa. This Kamsa imprisoned his father and became the king of Mathura. By the grace of Lord Krishna and his brother, Lord Baladev, Kamsa was killed and Ugrasena was reinstalled on the throne. Lord Krishna placed Ugrasena back on the throne. He did not take the throne. When Shalva attacked the city of Dwaraka, Ugrasena fought very valiantly and repulsed the enemy. Ugrasena inquired from Naradaji about the divinity of Lord Krishna. When the Yadu dynasty was to be vanquished, Ugrasena was entrusted with the iron lump produced from the womb of Samba. He cut the iron lump into pieces and then pasted it and mixed it up with seawater on the coast of Dwaraka. After this, he ordered complete prohibition within the city of Dwaraka and the kingdom. He got salvation after his death. We'll find this in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Baladev is a divine son of Vasudeva by his wife Rohini. He was also entrusted to Nanda Maharaj along with his mother Rohini when Vasudeva embraced imprisonment by mutual agreement with Kamsa. So Nanda Maharaj is also the foster father of Baladev along with Lord Krishna. So they are stepbrothers. So he is Vishnu Tattva. He attended the Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi along with Sri Krishna. When Subhadra was kidnapped by Arjuna by the organized plan of Sri Krishna, Baladev was very angry with Arjuna and wanted to kill him at once. Sri Krishna, for the sake of his dear friend, fell at the feet of Lord Baladev and implored him not to be so angry. Sri Baladev was thus satisfied. Similarly, he was once very angry with the Kauravas and he wanted to throw their whole city into the depths of the Yamuna. But the Kauravas satisfied him by surrendering unto his divine lotus feet. He is actually the seventh son of Devaki, but because he was transferred to Rohini, they thought that Devaki had a miscarriage. Because he was transferred from Devaki to Rohini, he is called Sankarshana, the one who was pulled away. Because he is as powerful as Lord Krishna and can bestow spiritual power to the devotees, he is therefore known as Baladev. Nayamatama balahinena labhya. Without power, without strength, one cannot attain the Supreme Lord. And that strength is spiritual strength, it's not material strength. Sri Baladev was also a class friend of Lord Sri Krishna as a student of Santipani Muni. That's because they both studied together. They were sent together and they studied together. They completed their education together. In his childhood, he killed many asuras along with Sri Krishna. Specifically, he killed the Dhenukasura at Talavan. During the Kurukshetra battle, he remained neutral and he tried his best not to bring about the fight. He was in favor of Duryodhana, but still he remained neutral. When there was a club fight between Duryodhana and Bhimasen, he was present on the spot. He was angry at Bhimasen when the latter struck Duryodhana on the thigh or below the belt and he wanted to retaliate the unfair action. Lord Sri Krishna saved Bhima from his wrath, but he left the place at once, being disgusted at Bhimasen. And after his departure, Duryodhana fell to the ground to meet his death. The funeral ceremony of Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, was performed by him as he was the maternal uncle. It was impossible to be performed by any one of the Pandavas, who were all overwhelmed with grief. At the last stage, he departed from the world by producing a great white snake from his mouth, and thus he was carried by Sheshanaga in the shape of a serpent. Pradyumna, incarnation of Kamadeva, or according to others, incarnation of Sanat Kumara, born as the son of the personality of God, Lord Sri Krishna, and Lakshmi Devi Srimati Rukmini, the principal queen at Dwaraka. Pradyumna is actually a Vishnu Tattva. He is a form of Lord Vishnu. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Niruddha. But Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that Kamadeva is present in Pradyumna's body. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures sometimes describe him as Kamadeva. It appears that Sanat Kumara was also present in his body. He was one of those who went to congratulate Arjuna upon his marrying Subhadra. He fought against Salva. That very interesting chapter you can read in Krishna book. He fought with Salva. He was victorious. He heard about different demigods from Naradaji. He's one of the 4 plenary expansions of Lord Sri Krishna. He's the 3rd one. After his death, he was installed in his original position. His death was just so-called death. It's like a magic show. And we'll see this in the 11th canto. The destruction of the Yadu dynasty. Charudeshna, another son of Lord Sri Krishna and Rukmini Devi. He was also present during the Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi. He fought with Vivinidhaka and killed him in the fight. Samba. He was born to Krishna and Jambavati. He learned the military art of throwing arrows from Arjuna, and he became a member of parliament during the time of Maharaj Yudhishthira. He was present during the Rajasuya Yajna of Maharaj Yudhishthira. So then there were various incidents. One prominent incident was he was present before some rishis, falsely dressed as a pregnant woman by his brothers, and in fun he asked the rishis what he was going to deliver. The rishis replied that he would deliver a lump of iron, which would be the cause of fratricidal war in the family of Yadu. The next day in the morning, Samba delivered a large lump of iron, which was entrusted to Ugrasen for necessary action. Actually, later on, there was the foretold fratricidal war, and Samba died in that war. So we will see this in the 11th canto. So all of these sons of Lord Krishna and other relatives, they all left their engagements and they ran towards the Supreme Lord. Okay. Varanendram Puraskritya Brahmanais Sumangalai Shankhaturyan Ninadena Brahmagoshena Chadrita Pratyujagmurathai Rishta Pranayagata Sadhvasa. They hastened towards the Lord on chariots with Brahmanas bearing flowers. Before them were elephants, emblems of good fortune. Corn shells and bugles were sounded, and Vedic hymns were chanted. Thus they offered their respects, which were saturated with affection. So these excellent elephants were kept in front for the sake of invoking auspiciousness. The Vedic way of receiving a great personality creates an atmosphere of respect which is saturated with affection and veneration for the person received. The auspicious atmosphere of such a reception depends on the paraphernalia described above, including conch shells, flowers, incense, decorated elephants, and the qualified brahmanas reciting verses from the Vedic literatures. Such a program of reception is full of sincerity on the part of both the receiver and the received. So they recited various Vedic hymns and so on. Varamukhyascha Shaptasho Yanaistad Darshano Sukha Lasat Kundala Nirbhata Kapola Vadana Shriyaha. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. Varamukhya. Natadayascha, Veshya iti ava, Nartakyaha. They were dancers and they were prostitutes, but they were all well trained. Just as there's a description of the most exalted members of the Dwaraka population here, there's a description of the most low class people. The point to note is from the lowest to the highest, everybody was interested in pleasing the Supreme Lord. We may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. Even to date, there are many prostitutes in great cities of India who are sincere devotees of the Lord. By tricks of chance, one may be obliged to adopt a profession which is not very adorable in society, but that does not hamper one in executing devotional service to the Lord. It is understood here with that even in those days, about 5,000 years ago, there were prostitutes in a city like Dwaraka where Lord Krishna resided. This means that prostitutes are necessary citizens for the proper upkeep of society. The government opens wine shops, but this does not mean that the government encourages the drinking of wine. The idea is that there is a class of men who will drink at any cost, and it has been experienced that prohibition in great cities encouraged illicit smuggling of wine. Similarly, men who are not satisfied at home require such concessions, and if there is no prostitute, then such low men will induce others into prostitution. It is better that prostitutes be available in the marketplace so that the sanctity of society can be maintained. So this is the basis for having this. The real reformation is to enlighten all people to become devotees of the Lord, and that will check all kinds of deteriorating factors of life. And then Prabhupada gives some information about one such prostitute who was very exalted, who in fact was the Vartma Pradarshaka Guru to none other than Billumangal Thakur, Chintamani, who was glorified by Billumangal Thakur in his Krishna Karnamrita. She told him that his attraction for the flesh and bone of an insignificant woman like her would be properly utilized if it could be diverted to the devotional service of the Lord to achieve attraction for the transcendental beauty of the Lord. It was a momentous hour for the Thakur, and he took a turn towards spiritual realization by the words of a prostitute. So even these people, if they take to devotion service and they get trained up in Krishna consciousness, give up sinful activities, and progress further and further and further, they can attain the perfection of liberation and love of Godhead. It appears that the prostitutes of Dwaraka were so eager to meet the Lord were all as unalloyed devotees, and thus they were all on the path of salvation according to the above version of the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, the only reformation that is necessary in society is to make an organized effort to turn the citizens into devotees of the Lord. And thus all good qualities of the denizens of heaven will overtake them in their own way. The idea is that Dwaraka, many of the residents of Dwaraka were actually demigods who had incarnated. If we remember at the very beginning of Krishna's descent, Lord Brahma orders the demigods that they should also take birth in human society in order to assist the Supreme Lord. So a number of them, they appeared in various dynasties in order to help the Supreme Lord, in order to serve him. And for the Devas, we have these Apsaras, they also take birth. And these Apsaras, they're not human prostitutes. That is something to be noted. They're prostitutes, but they're celestial prostitutes. There are different codes of conduct. So these are all, and they're also devotees of the Lord. They also want to become pure devotees. But because of the karmic history of each and every one of them, they are given a particular role to play. The point to note here is that even these ladies, they were having the desire to progress in Krishna consciousness. Natan Nartaka Gandharva, Sutamaghada Vandina, Gayanti Chottama Shloka Charitani Yadbhutani cha. Expert dramatists, artists, dancers, singers, historians, genealogists, and learned speakers all gave their respective contributions being inspired by the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. Thus they proceeded on and on. So there were different types of people here. You have expert dramatists who enacted and caused people to experience various rasas in dramas about the Supreme Lord. Then there were dancers who danced according to standard beats and rhythms and so on. You had singers, the Sutas, they spoke on the Puranas. The Magadhas, they described pious dynasties. The Vandis, or professional glorifiers, professional reciters, as Prabhupada sometimes says. They were of a pure mind. So all of them, they were glorifying the wonderful characteristics and activities of Lord Uttama Shloka, such as his being affectionate towards everyone and so on. So from this it's clear that all of these categories were there. Dancers, singers, and dramatic artists mostly hailed from the Shudra community, whereas the learned historians, genealogists, and public speakers hailed from the Brahmana community. So even though they were from very different Varnic layers, still they would focus on the Supreme Lord's activities. They are all glorifying the Lord according to their ability. All the Puranas are historical facts described only in relation with the Supreme Lord in different ages and times, as well as on different planets also. Therefore, we do not find any chronological order. The modern historians, therefore, cannot catch up the link, and thus they unauthoritatively remark that the Puranas are all imaginary stories only. Even 100 years ago in India, all dramatic performances were centered around the superhuman activities of the Supreme Lord. The common people would be verily entertained by the performances of dramas, and yatra parties played wonderfully on the superhuman activities of the Lord. And thus even the illiterate agriculturist would be a participant in the knowledge of Vedic literature despite a considerable lack of academic qualifications. Therefore, expert players in drama, dancers, singers, speakers, etc. are required for the spiritual enlightenment of the common man. The genealogists would give account completely of the descendants of a particular family. Then, Bhagavams tatra bandhunam pauranam anuvartinam yatha vidhyupasangamya sarvesham manam adadhe. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, approached him and offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives, citizens, and all others who came to receive and welcome him. So he respected everyone according to their position and so on. So he honored everyone. So he reciprocated with everyone. At the same time, he gave them due honor. Here the word yatha vidhi, or just as it behooves, is significant. He reciprocates just as it behooves with his different types of admirers and devotees. Of course, the pure devotees are of one type only because they have no other object for service but the Lord. And therefore, the Lord also reciprocates with such pure devotees just as it behooves. Namely, he is always attentive to all the matters of his pure devotees. There are others who designate him as impersonal, and so the Lord also does not take any personal interest. He satisfies everyone in terms of one's development of spiritual consciousness. And a sample of such reciprocation is exhibited here with his different welcomers. It's very important to note that the Supreme Lord reciprocates with each and every one, even those who are very, very low class, as well as those who are completely pure Paramahamsa type devotees. Prahvabhivadanaślesha karasparsha smite kshanai ashvasya chashvapakebhyo vareschabhimatair vibhu. The Almighty Lord greeted everyone present by bowing his head, exchanging greetings, embracing, shaking hands, looking and smiling, giving assurances and awarding benedictions even to the lowest in rank. The lowest in rank refers to the lowest rank of dog eaters. So from this we understand that there were dog eaters also in Dwaraka. This does not mean that eating dogs are okay for us who have taken up to the process of sadhana bhakti. Similarly, just because they were prostitutes doesn't mean that prostitution is okay. Prabhupada, in fact, later on will say that prostitution should be banned actually all over the world. Of course, we need to purify the general audience and bring it to a point where it is capable of carrying out such a restriction. That's the idea. Similarly, Prabhupada also wanted to ban slaughterhouses and so on. But that also, you need to educate, train, upgrade human society to such a point where they themselves will not want all these things, not artificially. So the previous verse stated that the Supreme Lord dealt with everyone just as it behooves. Now, what is the meaning of just as it behooves? That is stated here. So with some, he just bowed his head. With some others, he exchanged greetings. He offered obeisances through speech, and so on. So there are different ways by which he honored everyone, including the dog eaters, and by fulfilling their desires for particular boons and benedictions and so on. So in that way, he honored everyone. It is very important to note this, that he honors everyone. In Varnashrama Dharma, it is not that we honor Brahmanas and we dishonor Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and those who are lower than Shudras. It is not that we honor Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and we dishonor Vaishyas, Shudras, and people lower than Shudras. It is not that we honor Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and we dishonor Shudras and people lower than Shudras. And it is not that we honor Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and we dishonor persons lower than Shudras. On the other hand, we honor everyone, but we honor those who accept Dharma, Vedic Dharma, even as a Shudra, to a greater degree. And then we honor Vaishyas by Gunakarma to a greater degree. We honor genuine Kshatriyas to an even greater degree. And we honor Brahmanas to the greatest degree. So everybody is honored. Nobody is rejected. But still there's a hierarchy. This requires cultural maturity. To receive the Lord Shri Krishna, there were all grades of population beginning from Vasudeva, Ugrasen and Gargamuni, the father, grandfather and teacher, down to the prostitutes and chandalas who are accustomed to eat dogs. See, prostitutes, chandalas, they are the lowest. On the other hand, you have perfect devotees like Vasudeva, Ugrasen, Gargamuni and so on. And every one of them was properly greeted by the Lord in terms of rank and position. As pure living entities, all are the separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and thus no one is alien by his eternal relation. Such pure living entities are graded differently in terms of contamination of the modes of material nature. But the Lord is equally affectionate to all his parts and parcels despite material gradation. It's a very simple thing. A mother may have 5 children, and they all may be sick to different degrees. She loves all of them equally. She just deals with everyone according to their degree of sickness. But she loves all of them equally. He descends only to recall these materialistic living beings back to his kingdom, and intelligent persons take advantage of this facility offered by the personality of God to all living beings. No one is rejected by the Lord from the kingdom of God, and it remains with the living being to accept this or not. Swayam cha gurubhir viprai sadharai sthavirairapi ashir yujyamanon yair vandibhischa vishat puram. Then the Lord personally entered the city, accompanied by elderly relatives and invalid brahmanas with their wives, all offering benedictions and singing the glories of the Lord. Others also praised the glories of the Lord. The brahmanas in society were never attentive to banking money for future retired life. Brahmanas are not supposed to save money for future. When they were old invalids, They used to approach with their wives the assembly of the kings, and simply by praising the glorious deeds performed by the kings, they would be provided with all necessities of life. Such Brahmanas were not, so to speak, flatterers of the king, but the kings were actually glorified by their actions. In other words, you're not supposed to falsely glorify, but true glorification. And they were sincerely still more encouraged in pious acts by such Brahmanas in a dignified way. Lord Shri Krishna is worthy of all glories, and the praying Brahmanas and others were glorified themselves by chanting the glories of the Lord. Rajamargam gate Krishne dwarakaya kulastriyaha harmyanyaru ruhur vipra tadikshna mahotsavaha. When Lord Krishna passed over the public roads, all the ladies from the respectable families of Dwaraka went up to the roofs of their palaces just to have a look at the Lord. They considered this to be the greatest festival. This is being, they're addressing Shaunaka, who represents all the other Brahmanas. To have a look at the Lord is a great festive occasion, undoubtedly, as it was considered by the metropolitan ladies of Dwaraka. This is still followed by the devout ladies of India, especially during the days of the Jhulan and Janmashtami ceremonies. The ladies of India still throng up in the greatest number at the temple of the Lord, where his transcendental eternal form is worshipped. So the Supreme Lord, he appears in the incarnation of the deity form. Just to give us who are neophytes the facility to serve him. The material senses cannot perceive the spiritual nature of the Lord, and therefore the Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, which is apparently made of material elements like earth, wood, and stone. But actually, there is no material contamination. The Lord being Kaivalya, one alone, there is no matter in him. He is one without a second. And therefore, the Almighty Lord can appear in any form without being contaminated by the material conception. Therefore, festivities in the temple of the Lord, as held generally, are like festivals performed during the manifestive days of the Lord of Dwaraka about 5,000 years ago. The authorized acharyas who know the science perfectly install such temples of the Lord under regulative principles, just to offer facilities to the common man, but persons who are less intelligent, without being conversant with the science, mistake this great attempt to be idol worship and poke their nose into that to which they have no access. Therefore, the ladies or men who observe festivals in the temples of the Lord just to have a look at the transcendental form are 1,000 times more glorious than those who are non-believers in the transcendental form of the Lord. Another important lesson we learn from the culture of Dwaraka is, it appears from the verse that the inhabitants of Dwaraka were all owners of big palaces. This indicates the prosperity of the city. The ladies got up on the roofs just to have a look at the procession and the Lord. The ladies did not mix with the crowd on the street, and thus their respectability was perfectly observed. There was no artificial equality with the man. Female respectability is preserved more elegantly by keeping the woman separate from the man. The sexes should not mix unrestrictedly. Nityam nirikshamananam yadapi dwarakaukasam na vitripyanti hidrisha shriyo dhamangamachutam. The inhabitants of Dwaraka were regularly accustomed to look upon the reservoir of all beauty, the infallible Lord, yet they were never satiated. They were never bored. It is one thing that when we enter into the field of material enjoyment, all the sense objects are in various combinations and configurations. They satiate the person who is attempting to enjoy. They make one bored. But that is not the case with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That too, the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is all attractive. When the ladies of the city of Dwaraka got up on the roofs of their palaces, they never thought that they had previously many times seen the beautiful body of the infallible Lord. This is the meaning of not being satiated. Anything material seen for a number of times ultimately becomes unattractive by the law of satiation. The law of satiation acts materially. but there is no scope for it in the spiritual realm. The word infallible is significant here because although the Lord has mercifully descended on the earth, he is still infallible. He's infallible. Therefore, his ever fresh nature is not does not deteriorate. Even when the Supreme Lord, he appears within matter. The Lord's body is not like that, meaning it is not material, it is not material, it is not subjected to birth, growth, transformation, situation, deterioration, and annihilation. The six types of decay, basically. Jayate, Asti, Vardhate, and so on. He descends as he is and is never under the laws of the material bonds. His body is the source of everything that be, the reservoir of all beauties beyond our experience. No one, therefore, is satiated by seeing the transcendental body of the Lord, because there are always manifestations of newer and newer beauties. This is why one is not satiated, one is not bored, because it's ever fresh. The transcendental name, form, qualities, entourage, etc. are all spiritual manifestations, and there is no satiation in chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no satiation in discussing the qualities of the Lord, and there is no limitation of the entourage of the Lord. He is the source of all and is limitless. Etadeva abhinayena aha. And then this is now stated in the form of various comparisons in a very dramatic way. Shriyo nivaso yasyora panapatram mukham drisham bahavo lokapalanam saranganam padambujam. The Lord's chest is the abode of the goddess of fortune. His moon-like face is the drinking vessel for eyes which hanker after all that is beautiful. His arms are the resting places for the administrative demigods, and his lotus feet are the refuge of pure devotees who never talk or sing of any subject except his lordship. So we see that the Supreme Lord, he is the most beautiful one. He is the object of pleasure of the thousands and thousands of goddess of fortune at Goloka Vrindavan, the Chintamani Dham, as stated in the Brahma Samhita. Usually, the pious living entities worship the goddess of fortune, but here we see that the goddess of fortune in various forms is automatically attracted by the Supreme Lord's form, and they're all serving the Supreme Lord. The impersonalists cannot observe such goddesses of fortune because of their dry speculative habit. And those who are artists overtaken by the beautiful creation should better see to the beautiful face of the Lord for complete satisfaction. The face of the Lord is the embodiment of beauty. What they call beautiful nature is but his smile, and what they call the sweet songs of the birds are but specimens of the whispering voice of the Lord. There are administrative demigods in charge of departmental service of cosmic management, and there are tiny administrative gods in the state service. They're always afraid of other competitors, but if they take shelter of the arms of the Lord can protect them always from the attacks of enemies. Then you have the Sarangas. The essence of everything is the Supreme Lord. He is called the Saram. And those who sing and talk about him are called the Sarangas, or the pure devotees. The pure devotees are always hankering after the lotus feet of the Lord. The lotus has a kind of honey which is transcendently relished by the devotees. This lotus, which lotus? The lotus feet of the Lord. And these devotees, they are like the bees who are always after the honey, that honey, which is uninterrupted, unmotivated devotion, service to his lotus feet is that honey. Ahaitukya pratihata dhokshaja bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami, the great devotee Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, has sung a song about this lotus honey, comparing himself to the bee. O my Lord Krishna, I beg to offer my prayers unto you. My mind is like the bee, and it is after some honey. Kindly, therefore, give my bee mind a place at your lotus feet, which are the resources for all transcendental honey. I know that even big demigods like Brahma do not see the rays of the nails of your lotus feet, even though they are engaged in deep meditation for years together. Still, O infallible Lord, my ambition is such that you are very merciful to your surrendered devotees. O Madhava, I know also that I have no genuine devotion for the service of your lotus feet, but because your Lordship is inconceivably powerful, you can do what is impossible to be done. Your lotus feet can deride even the nectar of the heavenly kingdom, and therefore I am very much attracted by them. O Supreme Eternal, please therefore let my mind be fixed at your lotus feet, so that eternally I may be able to relish the taste of your transcendental service. So the Supreme Lord's chest is the residence of the goddess of fortune. His face, it is the vessel from which one can drink the nectar of his beauty, the beauty of his face. His arms are the residence of the protectors of the various worlds, and the Sarangas are the devotees of the Lord who glorify Lord Sri Krishna, who is the essence of everything. And his lotus feet is the residence of these devotees. So everybody was looking at that Supreme Lord who had such a nature. The devotees are satisfied. Now, why are the devotees described as residing at his lotus feet? The devotees are satisfied with being placed at the lotus feet of the Lord and have no ambition to see his all beautiful face or aspire for the protection of the strong arms of the Lord. They are humble by nature, and the Lord is always leaning towards such humble devotees. We should remember that even in the higher rasas, in pure devotional service, there are always elements of the lower rasas. Therefore, even though Rupa Goswami is a devotee of the Supreme Lord in conjugal love, still his devotion contains dasya rasa. You can see elements of dasya rasa. The core element of dasya rasa is always found in the higher rasas. And we can see here, he is attracted to service to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Sitatapatra vyajnairupaskrutah प्रसूनवर्षैरभिवर्षितः पथि पिशंगवासा वनमालया बभौ घनो यथार्को उडुपचापवैद्युत्तैः. As the Lord passed along the public road of Dwaraka, his head was protected from the sunshine by a white umbrella. White feathered fans moved in semicircles, and showers of flowers fell upon the road. His yellow garments and garlands of flowers made it appear as if a dark cloud were surrounded simultaneously by sun, moon, lightning, and rainbows. So here, Prabhupada will explain. He has incorporated Sridhar Swami's commentary here. Okay. The sun, moon, rainbow, and lightning do not appear in the sky simultaneously. This is called Abhuta Upama. A comparison with something which is impossible, literally, or something which doesn't take place. When there is sun, the moonlight becomes insignificant. And if there are clouds and a rainbow, there is no manifestation of lightning. But still, look at this comparison here. Everything has been put together. The Lord's bodily hue is just like a new monsoon cloud. He is compared herein to the cloud. The white umbrella over his head is compared to the sun. The movement of the bunch hair, fan, or flukes is compared to the moon, because it is you move the chamara in semicircles. So therefore it's compared to the moon. The showers of flowers are compared to the stars. His yellow garments are compared to the rainbow. So all these activities of the firmament, of the sky, being impossible simultaneous factors, cannot be adjusted by comparison. The adjustment is possible only when we think of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. The Lord is all powerful, and in his presence, anything impossible can be made possible by his inconceivable energy. But the situation created at the time of his passing on the roads of Dwaraka was beautiful and could not be compared to anything besides the description of natural phenomena. This is the maximum extent to which you can compare Krishna's beauty. Pravishtastu griham pitro parishvaktasva matribhi vavande shirasa sapta devaki pramukha muda. After entering the house of his father, he was embraced by the mothers present, and the Lord offered his obeisance unto them by placing his head at their feet. The mothers were headed by Devaki, his real mother. Devaki Pramukha Saptavavanda. So he offered obeisance to 7 mothers headed by Devaki. Matru Saundarya Adara Vishesha Gyapanartham Uttam. That's because they were all beautiful in their motherliness. So therefore, these 7 have been particularly mentioned. Ashtadashapi Vasudeva Bharya Matatuyatvan Namaskritaya. And certainly all the 18 wives of Vasudeva were all equal to Lord Krishna's mother Devaki. They were all offered obeisances by Lord Krishna. It appears that Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna, had completely separate residential quarters where he lived with his 18 wives, out of whom Srimati Devaki is the real mother of Lord Krishna. But in spite of this, all other stepmothers were equally affectionate to him, as will be evident from the following verse. Lord Krishna also did not distinguish his real mother from his stepmothers, and he equally offered his obeisance unto all the wives of Vasudeva present on the occasion. According to the scriptures also, there are 7 mothers. The real mother, the wife of the spiritual master, the wife of a brahmana, the wife of a king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. All of them are mothers. Even by this injunction of the Shastras, the stepmother, who is the wife of the father, is also as good as the mother, because the father is also one of the spiritual masters. Atmamata, Guruh Patni, Brahmani, Rajakanyaka, Dhenur Dhatri, Tata Prithvi, Saptaita, Matara Smrta. Lord Krishna, the Lord of the universe, plays the part of an ideal son just to teach others how to treat their stepmothers. So one should not be disrespectful to wives. I just need to open this one. See this one. It's just one or two verses more. Let me in the meanwhile read this out. Okay. It's just one verse more. Ta putramankam aropya snehasnuta payodhara harsha vihvalitatmanas shichur netra jair jalai. The mothers, after embracing their son, sat him on their laps. Due to pure affection, milk sprang from their breasts. They were overwhelmed with delight, and the tears from their eyes wetted the Lord. Let me just see if I found it. 1 minute. This is it. When Lord Krishna was at Vrindavan, even the cows would become moistened by affection towards him, and he would draw milk from the nipples of every affectionate living being. So, what to speak of the stepmothers who were already as good as his own mother? So, that was a very simple explanation. It was natural that his mothers they experienced vatsalya, rasa towards him. Why is it not opening? Okay, wait. For some reason, my computer is so slow. Anyway. Okay, wait. Let's have some interesting questions here. Let me look at this. My voice is breaking. Oh, I'm sorry. No idea why. Okay, wait. Okay, here is one question. But before that, let me see if there is anything from Srila Sridhar Swami on this text 29. So the mothers of Lord Krishna, they cried out of extreme joy, delight. Okay, here is a question. We read in verses that Dwaraka was filled with flower parks, reservoirs of waters, hermitages. So while reading such description, should we meditate upon gardens, hermitages? While reading hermitages, I don't remember coming across. Yeah, the gardens, orchards, all kinds of things were there. And it is natural that the Bhagavatam is a book meant for meditation. It's natural that when we read, we contemplate on this. In fact, that's what we are supposed to do. Does that enrich our reading? Yes, but we don't need to sit and do Ashtanga Yoga type of meditation. Why Baladev favored Duryodhana although he was on the side of Adharma? Balaram always wants to somehow or other bring people who are rejected by Krishna. He wants to make them qualified in order to surrender unto Lord Krishna. So therefore, Lord Balaram, it's his very nature. He tries to convince Duryodhana, who's the head of the Kauravas, in order to gradually try to change them. We see in Gaur Leela also, Nityananda Prabhu, he tries to help those who are hopeless, actually. Hopeless. By Lord Chaitanya's standards, we are nowhere, but it's by Nityananda Prabhu's grace that, we are somewhere at least in the periphery and we are being dragged inside. And gradually, as we surrender unto Lord Chaitanya's instructions, Lord Nityananda's instructions, gradually we become more and more qualified. So that is Lord Balaram's attitude. He is Krishna's expansion, And this is his attitude: how to make the hopeless, filled with hope. I'm sorry this thing got broken. I'll try to fix it. Otherwise, I'll have to use another computer. I got some ideas what to do, but I don't know if it may be a problem with my operating system, Windows. Could be. All right. Any further questions? Otherwise, so there are 7 types of mothers here. When we talk about treating other Vaishnavis as mothers or calling devotees as Mataji, which category does it belong? That is Matravat Paradareshu. It is a sign of education. When one is educated, then he should respect anyone other than any lady other than his own wife as one's mother. That is a general instruction. But these 7 types of mothers are special mothers. These are special mothers. All ladies other than one's own wife are mothers in general. But these 7 are special mothers. One's own mother, Atmamata, Groh Patni, one's authority's wife, Brahmani lady, Rajapatnika, the king's wife, Dhenu, a cow, Dhatri, one's wet nurse. There are some nurses who give their milk to children. So these are Dhatris. These are in a special category of mothers. Dhenu, Dhatri, Tatha Prithvi, and Earth. We're not supposed to become eco-terrorists, simply tormenting Earth by doing all kinds of things, as the world is now increasingly engaged. Saptaita Matarasmita, these are special mothers. These are mothers, but these are special mothers. Any other question? Otherwise, we'll shut down. Vanshakal Paturvyasha Kripasanjabhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.